Hello, everybody, and welcome to At Your Own Pace.
When you're first starting out, it's gonna be hard. That doesn't mean that you don't belong there.
I can do whatever, and it's just me being a ridiculous dad that wants to do some good in the world.
Keep moving forward. It's like a Walt Disney quote. Whatever that means to you at that time, that day, that race, just keep moving forward.
I can do this. I am going to do this, and I will do this.
If you're an early morning, 4 a.m. alarm person to get your run in, or you're like me who likes to sleep in and so you'll run at 7 p.m. Either way, it's hard, and I'm going to cheer for you, get to your goals. And if you don't, I'm going to be the shoulder for you to lean on as well.
It's forced me to get myself uncomfortable. And I think I'm starting to get that comfort with the uncomfortable.
Why don't I deserve a chance to be happy and not beat myself up over a bad run?
In more ways than one, running probably saved my life.
This is where we highlight runners of all backgrounds, paces, and finish times, sharing stories that inspire, connect us, and celebrate our community. Where we stop focusing on the miles splits and we start focusing on the miles lived, because every runner has a story worth telling. You won't hear about PRs, but you'll hear about the mental battles, the moments of profound connection, the personal healing, and the sheer joy that's found on the roads, trails, and tracks. Now, today's guest is someone who really represents the very heart of At Your Own Pace. And when I first began this podcast, was someone that I knew immediately I needed to have on here as a guest. If you follow Running Up That Hillary, you know her running journey isn't about perfection or pretending every run feels great. She is a very down-to-earth, an incredible person to follow. Her content is both something you can identify with and something that can also make you laugh. She shares the hard days, the rebuilding, the mental battles, and the small wins that come from continuing to show up, even when progress feels slow or nonlinear. Her content is a reminder that running doesn't always look like momentum. Sometimes it looks like patience, trust, and learning to meet yourself where you are. I'm excited to talk with her about the consistency and what it looks like when it's not glamorous, how she navigates setbacks, and what running at her own pace means in this chapter of her life. So without further ado, let me welcome Hillary. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
How are you doing?
I am good. No complaints today.
Yeah. Did you have a race recently? I know you had a marathon. You ran Chicago.
I ran Chicago, and then I ran the Indy Monumental Half, and then I did every women's marathon. So I had 3 within a month.
Was that the one that you hit your PR in, or was that Chicago?
So I PR'd at Chicago, and then I PR'd in the half at Indy, and then every women's marathon. I wasn't racing, but I ended up getting my second fastest marathon ever. So up until Chicago, my time would have been a PR. So yeah, so that was pretty cool also.
Well, that is awesome. I can't wait to get into that because I've been following your running journey for several years now, and I've seen the work that you've put in to get to where you are, and I've seen the running goals that you have for the year, and I have no doubt that you'll be able to hit them. And I can't wait to get into that as well. But starting out with your running story and your identity when it comes to you as a runner, your account speaks for itself, Running Up That Hillary, and it tells its own story. What does running up that hill represent for you besides just the physical act of running?
I mean, enjoying running at every single stage of life. My background, I actually started as a pretty young child. In 5Ks. My dad is, to this day, he still coaches. He's a cross country and track coach. I grew up watching him at marathons, and in second grade, he gave me the option. There was a local, all the towns have their celebrations and their parades. They're town, whatever. So I grew up in a town called Gilbert, Arizona, and every fall there was Gilbert Days. And these days it's much bigger, and I think there's a half marathon and stuff. But in the 90s, there was just a 5K, and it was not huge, and it was just a loop around the park. It's a big park, but so he just said, "Hey, you want to do this 5K with me?" And obviously, I'm going to say yes. I didn't know what a 5K was. I knew my dad liked to run, and I like to go into the park. And so why not? And so I ran my first 5K in second grade, and then it just kept going from there. I did quite a few road races, all within the Phoenix area. So, I wasn't I wasn't competitive. I wasn't one of those kids, the track club kids where their parents fly them to wherever the national things are. But I did quite a few local road races within the Phoenix area throughout elementary school, and my parents were great. They just, woke up early and would drive to watch their 7-year-old run 12-minute miles. And from the beginning, and my dad backing up, my dad was a very, very talented runner as a teenager. Like, he was very fast, and I got none of that natural talent. And from day one, there has never been any disappointment or expectation or anything like that. And I think that's what I liked about it, because it was something that I could do. I could push myself. I could race against myself. A lot of times, like, I have age group awards from elementary school where I was the only kid that even was there. Like, it was not as popular a sport as it is now. Like, the kids division was sometimes only myself.
Mhm.
And the same way that I fell in love with the sport is kind of what has kept me in love with it for the last 26 years. Just, it's something that I can do that's individual to me. There's no way to lose at it. I mean, I'm not out there running to beat anybody else but my own self.
Yes.
And so throughout junior high and high school, when I did cross country and track, it was the same sort of thing. In college, I got back into road racing with half marathons. I spent my entire 20s doing half marathons. Did my first marathon at 30, did my first ultra last year.
Mhm.
And throughout it, it's all just the, I guess, theme of running your own race, staying where you enjoy it, where it's something fun. It's something that I get to do and something that I like to do.
Absolutely. And your dad was your coach in high school, right?
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. So he actually chose to go to his high school. There was a closer high school to where to my house, like literally half a mile. I could have like pretty much jumped to school, and but I chose to go to his school instead because I wanted to run for his team. And it was a great decision. It was an awesome experience. I was not the star athlete on the team. I was very middle of the pack then, as I am now, as I always have been, but there was never any pressure to do anything more than the best of my ability.
Absolutely. And you shifted to high jumping, right, for a little bit? Was
Pole vaulting, yeah. So I did cross country, and then my freshman year of high school, I just had this idea that I was always going to do track. Like, that was non-negotiable. I was going to do the track team, and I just had in my mind, like, pole vaulting looked like it was fun, and so I was going to take a little break from running. I would still be on the track team. My dad was the distance coach. He wasn't the head coach, so he wasn't my track coach. But he was there. He was like adjacent to me. The track's here, and the pole vault pit is like 3 feet away. So, but yeah, and it was at the time because they didn't have it in junior high. So I had never even picked up a pole. I had no idea the mechanics of this. It was just something that in my mind, like being 14, I was like, that looks like fun. I'm gonna
yeah.
do that, and I don't have to run. Because I think at the time I wanted the break.
Mhm.
And so I went after something different. I ended up being actually a much better pole vaulter than I've ever been as a runner.
Hmm.
I was the top vaulter at my school. I qualified for state. That was the only time that I've actually ever qualified for anything ever, like time based or height based or anything like that, is the Arizona State meet. So I got to go to state. I won a couple meets. I did not win state, but some of the ones with a few schools and stuff. And so it was cool, like to do all that. But obviously, that's not something that you continue
Mhm.
forever. If I tried to pole vault right now, I'd break every bone in my body, and it wouldn't be great. So it was a cool thing to do, to compete, to actually be pretty good, and then you know have that needed break from running, and
Yeah.
then back when preseason cross country started in the summer.
That is awesome. I love how you grew up around running and how it became a part of your life. It's something that I'm hoping to instill in my own daughter after she's born. And I joke with my wife that once she's able to walk, I'm getting her shoes. We're going to the track that's down the street. And even if she has to crawl, she'll crawl. And she'll hopefully have the same love for running that I have.
Yeah,
And that,
my son, when he was first born, we did a lot of stroller runs, and then I got him into my run club has a kids program, and so 2 summers ago he did their 5K program, and he did his first 5K when he was 8. He did not love it, and so I did make him stick with the 8-week program and the race. I said, "You're not quitting this, but once we get through these 8 weeks, if you don't ever want to run again, you don't have to."
mm-hmm.
And he hasn't wanted to, and so he hasn't had to. And my youngest, she's almost old enough to start getting into that. I think she's really gonna like that. She's a very very active kid.
Chip off the old block. That is incredible. I love that. So you've talked about your beginnings and how your running journey started very early, and it's morphed and it's become what it is now, shifting into marathons and then your first ultra last year. How has your relationship with running, what feels the most different about how you approach the sport now?
I think I really underestimated myself for a long time. I kind of put myself into a box, and I was okay with that. Like during my 20s, a lot of it was just showing up and running and finishing, and that was awesome. But I also had this mindset that there was a ceiling to what I was able to do. And I mean, obviously there is a ceiling somewhere, but I thought it was much lower than it was. And it really wasn't until I was 30-year-old mom of 2 and I got this idea to do my first full marathon. And even then, when I began training, I was not convinced that my body could physically handle 26 miles, let alone even taking time out of the equation. I was skeptical, even as somebody who had been running for more than 20 years at that time. I was like, well, I think maybe a half marathon's where I top out. We'll see if I can do this. But I didn't believe I could run a marathon until I finished my first one. And in the last 4 years since then, it's been a lot of learning not to put myself in a box and not to underestimate myself. I'm not going to set insane goals. I like setting incremental goals instead of, I want to run a 2:30 marathon, because I likely won't ever do that. I can't even imagine what it would take to go from, more than 4-hour marathon to that. But the fact that I'm training for this year to break 4 hours is something that I never even would have thought was in the realm of possibility. And I mean, part of it came with experience, but part of it was also just a mind shift. You know, there I really don't know how much I can do until I'm out there and I'm trying, and the worst that I can do is not try at all.
It's funny how the limits that we set for ourselves, once we're pushed to the point where we have to go past them, we realize that our expectations that we set for ourselves are actually lower than what we're capable of. And this leads into the next portion, which is, you talk about these incremental goals you set, and in essence, kind of rebuilding phases and starting again towards a new goal. What's the hardest part of kind of starting again with a new goal, when you know what you're capable of right now, and trying to get to what you think you're capable of next?
I think the underestimating part is huge. You'll see, I work with a coach, so I'll see in my training prescribed paces, and before even trying, my first thought is there is no way that I can do, a 30-minute tempo run at whatever this prescribed pace is, let alone sustain it for an entire marathon. So big thing is trusting the training, people that know better than I do. It's hard to be objective when it's your own self. I'll do training plans for other people. I'm a coach as well. I don't coach a ton of people, but I do have the knowledge and experience. But when it comes to my own self, I'll see something that on paper, looking at my VO2 max, looking at my goals, looking at what I've run, it makes sense. But in my mind, it's like I cannot do that.
Mm-hmm.
So getting away from that is a big part. Honestly, so I went after a sub 4:30 marathon multiple times and I missed it over and over and over. And what it actually took to finally make the difference was I decided to run a 50K last March. And that was only about finishing. I didn't have a time goal. It was a trail race. So I knew it was not going to be comparable. And so I set a distance goal instead of that. And for the race itself, I used intervals, walk run intervals, which I've always used for long runs and easy runs and things like that. It's ever since I started training for my first full marathon. And I really like it. It keeps my overall effort at a low level, heart rate, ability to talk, all of the things that you try to do for that. But I never once considered using it in a race because it was always this mindset like, I should be running.
Yes.
I should be running all of this. And at that point, I had missed my sub 4:30 goal 5 times, 5 different marathons. And, not by a ton. I had one that was 4:33, one that was 4:39. Like I wasn't a ton off, but I could not get past that barrier. And after I finished that 50K, I realized how much it made a difference later on in the race using the intervals. It feels kind of silly to be walking half a mile into a race. Like, I feel like turning to everybody and everybody else on there. I'm like, I promise I can run more than half a mile. Like I can. This is on purpose. I'm not dying. I'm okay. And I talked to my coach and we started incorporating walk run intervals into everything that I did. And so that ultimately was what led to the breakthrough full and half marathon later in the year. It was something that worked for me in training and getting over the mental portion of it and the ego portion of it and everything and just trying it in a race, and it changed everything for me.
You bring up the 50K, and also now we're in the winter months, which is kind of really brutal for runners because this is like the period of time where things are dialing down because all the big marathons are done and we're beginning to start ramping up towards our spring or summer fall marathons. And so there's like this gap where it's like, I want to train, but also what am I training for? And I know your 50K was like, you were just like, surprise.
Yeah.
I did it. How do you like stay mentally engaged during the seasons where it's either it feels slow like it is right now, or it's invisible? You're working so hard and it's a lot of people don't know that you're doing that.
I'm technically this whole last 2 months have been like an off season. So I haven't been to the gym since November. So no speed work, no lifting, anything. I'm still running 4 or 5 days a week and I still do a long run every weekend. I haven't been really training for anything specific. I do have a 50K this weekend. Yeah, I do have that. I signed up for it, but I didn't specifically train for it. I just had the distance metrics already and it's 45 minutes from my house and it's apparently really pretty. So that one was kind of on a whim, but I've been focusing the last 2 months on just running for the joy of it. And I think that has been really helpful because I'm going to be going into my London marathon build. And then pretty much directly after London, I'm going to be going into my Toronto marathon build. And Toronto's my goal race in October when I would like to break 4 hours. And so having the downtime to just, I feel like running 4 miles today. I feel like running 10 miles today, like just whatever it is that I felt like, and then running at whatever pace I want. Like I've really enjoyed it just because I've been training constantly for so long.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, you see people doing their training runs and their tempo work and all this. And so you do get some of the FOMO there. And I think I've just tried to remind myself that this will not last. This is downtime, calm before the storm kind of thing. Not that running 31 miles is calm,
Yes.
but it doesn't require the sort of speed work and everything that road marathons and things like that do. So just enjoying being able to run whatever feels good on whatever day.
Mhm.
And it's a little bit different because our bad season here is summer.
Yes.
Because I'm in San Antonio, and so our winter is all over the place. You know, we'll have the days in the 30s. We'll have days in the 70s, sometimes even the 80s. Like it's all over the place, but it's all runnable. Like none of it is like blizzards and everything.
Mhm.
So like summer is really when I struggle the most with motivation, and that's when I lean in the most with running in groups. I think that's what makes the biggest difference. I've been running a lot on my own recently because it feels good and it's nice outside, and I don't need the mental pick me up of conversation and all of that, but it really helps in the summer. The group of people waiting for you, having, especially because you have to wake up so early. And so it's
Mhm.
like, okay, I guess I'll get up early because they're all already out there, and I'll spend the next 3 hours just talking, and we're suffering together and things
Yes.
like that. And I would imagine that up north, it's probably pretty similar in the winter, having a group to make it suck less when the weather's really bad.
Now, I want to talk about the mental side of running because, there's always days where our body feels fine, but our mind is so heavy, right? We have so many things going on. You have a family, you have a job, and you're trying to work in your training and, preparing everything for these marathons. What really helps you keep going? Or when do you realize that it's okay to stop?
Yeah, there are definitely days. I've never once done a run streak. I don't think I've ever run 7 days in a row in my life.
Mhm.
I run 5 or 6 days a week. I run quite often, but I do build in rest days. My coach also knows that. So that's something where when I first started working with her, she would have like cross training on what is supposed to be a rest day. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Like, let's just adjust this. And I don't skip very many workouts, but I do give myself permission to if I really am exhausted physically or mentally, if it's just going to further take away from that. um Something that helps on days when I don't feel like uh working out is my gym has childcare, and you have to make reservations for that, and it's free, but you have to make the reservation. So sometimes I'll just make a reservation, and then I'll tell my daughter, hey, we're going to the JCC, and we're gonna go, and you can play in the daycare and all that, and she gets excited, and then I have to go. So
Mhm.
it's like, okay, well, I'm already here. I'll just go get on the treadmill. And then there's never a time when it's like I start and I'm just like, nah. Like there's times when I start and like physically I'm like, okay, yeah, this is not a great day. But there's never a time when I mentally just don't want to. And if I can get myself out the door, get myself on a treadmill, get myself, going, it's gets so much easier just once I start. But I think also just having the permission to take a rest day, even if it's unplanned, if I need to. I don't do it a lot, so I think that's kind of different. I think if people are doing that on a weekly basis, it might be worth reevaluating, what are you trying to get out of this and everything. But I pretty rare on that. So just having the permission to do that if I really feel like I don't. And then it's also the pretty much the only time that I am like fully alone. So if I'm listening to an audiobook or a podcast or whatever, like I'm not going to be uninterrupted any other time. Like I'm either working or I'm with my kids or I'm asleep. So also just that where it's like, okay, I don't feel like it's 95 degrees. I really don't want to go out there, but I do want to listen to the next chapter of my book. So if I want to walk, that's fine, and I'll just get through the chapter. And then I go out there and I'm like, all right, well, I'm already out here. I'll run. I'll just do a little 2 or 3 mile loop of my neighborhood. So just making things like that, make it fun, and no hard lines like, oh God, like you didn't run today and now you're a failure. Anything like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, good. Trying not to beat yourself up. And it sounds like once you take that first step, then it's kind of like that takes over and you just keep going.
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, how has running helped you better understand yourself outside of the sport?
I think it goes back to the conversation on limits. Like, thing is a great way to prove like that you can push through limits, but that can be applied to other things as well. In jobs or in financial things. When I was when I was in college, I thought that I there was no way that I would ever own a home. All this stuff. You hear stuff like, "Oh, millennials like are not homeowners," and all this stuff. And so that was another box that I put myself in. And I wouldn't say necessarily that me buying a house was directly from me running, but
Hmm.
it's the same sort of discipline and goal setting and aiming big, and that you know, not selling yourself too short. I mean, it helps that I live in a very low cost of area, low cost of living area. That does help. Uh, not everybody, even in San Antonio, owns a house and all that stuff. And I truly believed at 22 that like, oh, well, that'll never be me. Just like, a couple years ago, I never believed that I would be running a half marathon under 2 hours. Like that just wasn't in the cards for me. And so just the portion.
Hmm. I agree with you on that. I think that in my own life, running has shown me that whatever I thought I was capable of, both professionally, personally, athletically, has changed tremendously over the last couple of years for me. Now, I want to jump into your online persona, your social media, because this is one of the things that I think really makes you shine and is one of the things that I admire the most about you. You really choose honesty when it comes to what you post. You're not afraid to share what you believe is right or what you think should be shared with the running community. And you don't shy away from things that are not, I don't want to say not running, but they are tied in a sense, but they are they're things that get people thinking, right? And we've talked about how sometimes they can be a little divisive and you lose followers, you gain followers. That happens all the time. But was this always comfortable for you to do, or did it take time for you to get to this?
Not at all. So I started the Instagram, and I think a lot of people started their running Instagram in a similar boat where it was just I was posting so much about running on my personal page, and most of my friends and family are not runners. And I was like, oh, everybody's probably getting really annoyed on this. I'm just going
Yes.
to make a separate one. I thought I'd have maybe 50 followers or something. Like the people who I did know in person who are also runners, I was like, all right, they'll follow me. And it'll just be a digital running log. Like, I ran 5 miles today. Like, here's a picture of me. And I thought that was the extent of it. And what really changed things for me, there were two moments. So and they both actually came from the same race. So backing it up a little bit, my first marathon was a disaster. Spoiler alert, I ended up testing positive for COVID about 6 hours after finishing. So I was not aware that I had COVID. I thought it was nerves, and then I thought it was, I just wasn't feeling well. It was cold and rainy during the race, so I was like, okay, I've been out here for a long time and running. I'm sure that's why. And this is just what I had never run more than 20 miles. And so with the last like 4 miles being the like so painful, I was just like, this is what a marathon feels like. This is normal. And my dad filmed me finishing this race, and it is the worst I have looked in my entire life, like including active childbirth. Like this is the worst. I got a spinal tap when I was 20. I looked better than I did during the final stretch of this marathon. Like I was so bad. I was almost horizontal, just like
Oh, I
barely
think I've
moving.
seen this picture. I've seen this
Oh
picture.
yeah. It's terrible. And when I started the Instagram, that was the only marathon I had run. And Fleet Feet, and it was just the local Fleet Feet. It wasn't even like a national thing, but like Fleet Feet San Antonio did a contest where it was you post your worst race photo and tag them, and you could win a Fleet Feet gift card for $100. And I was like, ugh, I don't
Gotta
know.
enter.
I don't want to do this, but I do want $100 to Fleet Feet. And I wasn't working with brands at the time. Like I had, I had one pair of shoes, like all this kind of stuff. Like I was like, $100 to Fleet Feet, that'll go pretty far. And I do have the worst race photo. So if I enter this, like pretty sure I'll win. And so I just said, screw it. I posted the photo. I won the contest. And what I didn't expect was that it resonated with a lot of people. They're like, oh yeah, I've been there. I have felt exactly the way you do in that. And it was more of a relatable thing than, oh God, look at Hillary, look at like she's doing terrible. And so that was kind of the very first thing. And then so that was a still photo. And then at some point, not too long after that, I made a video, and it was my first video to go viral. And it was footage from that same race, me finishing it. It took a lot to not just the still photo, but the actual footage of me like dying. It's terrible. But I posted it, and I put it something like, and I finished that first marathon in like 5.5 hours. And I finished my second marathon in under 5 hours. Like it was a big difference. That it was a big struggle speed wise. Like it was very much not what I was capable of. It was a very bad day. And so I made this video, and it was like, what do you call somebody who is barely able to stagger across the finish line of their marathon in well over 5 hours? And then the answer was a marathoner. And that was my first reel that ever went viral. I couldn't believe that, it was getting hundreds of thousands of views. Like I couldn't even fathom that. And my account grew really, really fast after that, like very, very quickly. And I realized that, we all go through the crappy parts of running. And so if I am honest about them and I post about them, people resonate with it. Like people don't, you think that people are going to think less of you for the less glamorous side because, you want to look great and you want to look strong and fast and awesome and all that's great. But the vast majority of us do not feel like that the vast majority of the time. So that was when I was like, all right, well, I'm going to post more of this. And that kind of became my shtick, just and not ever exaggerated or like I'm going to, be extra dramatic on this, but just like, if I buy a package of race photos, whatever the really bad ones are, those are getting shared as well. And because we all have those photos. Like you race enough, and if you race hard and like you're at races every month or whatever, you're gonna have those photos where you look like you're dying. And even races where I felt great, you're still gonna have the ones where they get you at the wrong like moment and and everything. And it's all of us. And so people liked that. And I liked being able to have that honesty and not have to portray myself in a certain perfect way and kind of letting go of that. And it all kind of went from there.
That's one of the things I love about your account is that you don't shy away from being honest about your feelings while running and outside of running. And I was thinking as we were talking about my first marathon, and it was the New York City Marathon 2021, and the pictures that were taken during that race were just so bad because I was thinking, I was sobbing during portions of it. And I was like, these pictures are going to look so cathartic and they're just going to be so emotional and it's going to be something I'll be able to remember. They look terrible and awful. And I posted one picture all the time to remind people that this is hard because you look at these pros or semi-pros and they post their running photos either from like Marathon Photo or the people that follow them, and they look perfect. They look in the zone. They look perfect running form, and it's just the good lighting and the good posture and everything. And I feel like the running community, especially those people who are new runners or thinking of getting started out, need to understand. And it's something that I've heard from a lot of people that I've interviewed. And it's something that I think as well. When you begin your running journey, it's going to suck. Like it's going to be difficult. You're going to run into so many setbacks, and you're going to try to figure things out and find out what works for you. And you're going to hit a lot of issues as you try to figure that out. And the more honesty that we have with the running community from individuals like you, I think will make it easier for others to realize that it's okay to struggle. It's okay to also show that and not feel like you need to be this perfect runner, because there is no such thing. And I feel like a lot of the professional running influencers try to showcase that more than kind of the gritty grind behind everything.
And it's
Um,
more the bigger like running influencers than the actual like professional runners. I feel like pro runners are oftentimes a lot more honest and down to earth than some of the biggest running influencers out there. And same with like elitist attitudes and everything. You meet somebody who is out there on the podium for large races and you tell them about, you know, looking to break 4 hours, and it's like, oh wow, that's awesome, like you can totally do this. And then you have somebody who is slower than that level, but like, you know, that it's that little area where they're not quite good enough to be professionals, so there's this chip on their shoulder. And
yes.
so it's like, okay, but let me just tell everybody that I'm still better than most people. And that's the subset of runners that I usually see the least candor and genuineness and all of that. Yeah.
I love seeing your comments too that you leave people, especially on threads when you see those individuals post things like that. Cause I'm always like, she got to it first because I want to do it as well. And when you bring up the pros being like more down to earth, I think back to Safan when she it's either the finished the London marathon or when she finished the Chicago marathon or something like that, where she was like, I don't know why I do this. Why do I run marathons? I'm so
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And that was I was able to connect with that so much. And it was so nice to hear that from a professional because they make it look easy. And to know that there's having those thoughts too is really, really heartening because I'm pretty sure you've gone through this too. Every marathon I do, I go, why am I doing this? I don't know why I'm doing this. I hate this. And then you finish the marathon, you're like, when do I sign up for the next one?
Yeah. Yeah, I love her. She is like the epitome of that. I posted one recently because she did the Sydney and New York City the same year, and really fast. Like she won Sydney,
Yes.
and so I posted another one of her interviews that was something similar. It's like, if you hate yourself, then run Sydney and New York in the same season. And so she's like the pro equivalent of like saying what we are all thinking.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Now, with the honesty that you show on your social media, have you had anyone ever reach out to you that your posts have helped them through a tough season or anything else in their lives? And how does that responsibility feel when you share that?
It's pretty awesome, to be honest. I take screenshots and I have some of them saved in my favorites in my phone so I can read back when I get the exact opposite sorts of comments and stuff. Like, all right, well, here's the good. And I mean it's awesome because all of us supporting each other. Like, I'm not competing with any of these people. Like, and they're not competing with me, and we're in a sport where unless you truly are in the actual running to actually win the race, we're all competing with our own selves. Like, that
Mhm.
is what the goal is. And if somebody is a lot faster than me or a lot slower than me, any of that, like, it takes nothing away from me to support them or vice versa. And hearing that, you know, my either content or in general or just one message that I share on any given day or whatever is a good reminder, like things like that. It helps, and it's also a good reminder to myself where it's that's half the time when I'll do a reel where this is your reminder that I did one this week that it was like, you know, you'll see people running in these beautiful places on vacations, and it's awesome. But for every one of those, there's 100 more in circles around their neighborhood. And um, they're reminders for me as much as for other people. I love hearing that they resonate with people, but they're also reminders for me, because obviously we can all get caught up in the glamorous side of brand partnerships and free trips and all that kind of stuff.
Yes. Now, if you I I resonate with that a lot, and I've had a couple people reach out to me too, and I don't consider myself a running influencer. I genuinely just share what I share because I just love running. And to hear people say that something that I posted or something that I said was inspiring to them is what keeps me going. I have to start taking screenshots because I think that that would really help with me whenever I feel like I'm not making progress or not posting as well as I think I could be. But if someone is following you and they're while they're struggling through either a season of running or a training block, what do you hope that they feel when they see your posts?
Commiseration, I guess. None of us are doing this alone. Even if you are out on the trail physically alone, there are people all across the country, continent, world, like doing the exact same thing and feeling the same things that you're feeling, whether it's the physical exhaustion or the mental being overwhelmed or anything like that. I think just we're all in it together. It sucks for all of us sometimes. Like, mile 24 of a marathon is going to hurt whether you're running it in 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. Like it's going to suck. And just knowing that that's part of it, and that they're not alone and I'm not alone in any of those feelings.
Yes, definitely. Running tends to be a solitary sport, and so to have these accounts that we can follow, especially yours, is something that can really build the community and make you feel like, one, the struggles you're facing are things that everybody faces, and two, that they have a place that they can turn to for support, for guidance, and just overall fun with what you post, especially the funny things that you have. I'm thinking as well to female identifying runners because you are a huge advocate for those. You have your own podcast where you interview these strong women. I tell my wife all the time, I'm like, Hillary, like, interviewed like an Olympic champion or a winner of like the Boston Marathon and all this stuff. And I'm like, that these people are so powerful. And I think that, and you also posted about running safety. I saw you post the other day on your story about, a woman that was, unfortunately, her life was taken while she was running, and all she wanted to do was just go out and have a run.
Yeah, that's
And
my cousin.
yeah, and I think that you sharing that information is so huge because I see so many people on the internet, on threads, for example, who, especially men, who are very detrimental and they talk down to female runners thinking that they're just less than or not as strong or as good as them, and it pisses me off, which is what causes me to respond to them. But also, it's 2025, like, grow up, get over it, and we need to move forward. And I think that your account is such a huge advocate for that. Like, it's probably the biggest one that I've seen. So I personally just want to thank you for that because it makes me feel, safe as a non-binary runner. It makes me feel safe, and it makes me feel happy to know that we have somebody in the community who is advocating and fighting for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's always the goal. And I think that one of the biggest problems is people minimizing things with safety, or like, you're fine, or something like, oh, well, if you just don't run by yourself, then you'll be fine. If you'll just, things like that. And so those are really the things that I try to post about a lot, misconceptions and things, and putting blame on the people who have been attacked and things like that.
Yes. And we forget that the safety around running is so different between men and women when it comes
Yeah.
to running. And
Yeah.
and I think that that's something important that you put out there. Now, with all of the races you've done, you have this massive history with your running starting from a young age. What running moment is something that you're really proud of that really didn't have anything to do with pace, distance,
or race results like your PR that you had in Chicago?
So it was, so there's two. So, and they both happened within 2 months of each other. So one was my second marathon. It was the Austin Marathon. And that was the first time that a marathon felt like it should because I didn't have COVID. So
Mm.
only marathon that I had ever run, I was unknowingly sick and it sucked and it was terrible. And so I signed up for a redemption race. The San Antonio R Marathon is first weekend of December, and then Austin's is mid-February. So it was like 10 weeks apart. And I was like, all right, I'm going to just get back to it. I'm gonna do my second marathon. This is gonna be my redemption race. And it wasn't as much that I had like a time in mind as I wanted to not feel like I was dying. And I ended up feeling strong, negative splitting. I did PR by like more than half an hour. Like it was a big PR. But more than anything, I knew that this is what long distance running could and should feel like. Like, I didn't feel like great and I wasn't skipping to the finish line. I was like, all right, I'm ready for this to end. But it was not the same, like, please dig me a grave, like that I felt 2 months earlier than that.
No
Like,
hunched over pictures.
yeah, I finished vertical and smiling and all of that. And obviously I was sore and I was tired and I was sweaty and I was ready for the race to be done. But it was just a totally different thing. And so that was kind of the race when I knew that with proper preparation and health, that it is possible to actually feel strong at the end of a race. Maybe not good, but strong. And then the other one was Boston Marathon 2 months after that. And that was the most crazy whirlwind experience. And I've told the story before, but I'll give as brief a brief a story as I can. But my daughter was born with a heart condition, and she's born in March of 2021. She had, so in infancy, she was in and out of hospitals. Her heart defect, it's called a vascular ring. So her aorta wrapped around her esophagus, and so she couldn't eat. And so she had a G tube to help her gain weight so that they could eventually do her heart surgery. And then in June of 2022, when she was 15 months old, she ended up having corrective heart surgery. And the change afterwards was just drastic. She got her G tube out. She's now 4 and super healthy, happy, everything. And then at the same time, I had this new running account and I'd run 2 marathons. And I was like, I would like to do the Boston Marathon at some point. And I started following somebody, Scott Schneider. And I don't even know how I found his account, but he at the time was training to run the Boston Marathon. And I sent him a message. I'm like, hey, so how did you get connected with this charity? And what advice would you have for somebody who wanted to do it eventually sometime in the far future? And he said, look up charities that have a personal connection to you. Like, that's how I got mine. And that's what you should do. That's what makes a difference. And so I immediately started researching, and still in my mind, this was like at least a year, maybe more down the road. And I found a Boston-based charity called the Joseph Middlemiss Big Heart Foundation. And I was like, okay, this is perfect. This is who I'm going to run for. And they had never shut down their submissions for the 2023 team. They had announced who the team was, like they had their people, but they left the submission form open. So I was able to go in and told them my story about my daughter. And I said, hey, like, just want to get ahead of next year. I think I'd be a good person for this. Here's pictures of my daughter. Here's our entire story. And then I immediately get an email from Susan Hurley. So she was for a long time the head of charity teams for the Boston Marathon. She recently passed away. She was a wonderful fixture in the community, and I would not have gone all the places with charity running that I have without her. But she called me and she said, like, your story is great. I think you'd be awesome for 2024. Let's keep in contact and we'll make it happen. I was like, oh, awesome. I'll do Boston 2024. And then 2 days later, she calls and she's like, hey, I just got an extra bib. Do you think you can raise $8,500 and get yourself to Boston in 32 days? This was mid March at this point, and I didn't hesitate. I was like, yes, I can. I will do it. And so I went to fundraising, like insanity, every single person that I've ever met, everybody who, while my daughter was in and out of the hospital, was always like, let me know if I can do anything. Just all these people. I raised almost $10,000 in 22 days. Getting to Boston was another thing. We had to like fly to New Jersey and take a train and all this stuff. Like it was a whole thing. But all of that is to say that the feeling of one, starting the race, and then almost every feeling of every moment of running that race is one of the most memorable of my life. And I guess the fact that it was for her in addition to myself. I'm at this amazing, iconic race, but also making a difference for children like my daughter, who are born with conditions like this. And I don't think I've smiled more in a race than I did during that one. Like, just unbelievable experience.
Wow, the connection that you have, like I had a connection with the charity that I have, but this is a whole different level. Like that's beautiful. I love that so much. And I'm so glad your daughter's okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad that she's thriving, and I'm looking forward to seeing your post about her with her running.
Yeah.
When she starts to fall in love with the sport, just like you. Now, I have two last questions for you. They're kind of the same, but one's focused on you and one focus on other individuals that are either thinking about getting into running or brand new. I want to go back, and this is different because you have this experience with running that goes way back. But let's go back to when you're 30, when you first decide that you're going to run your first marathon. If you could give yourself one piece of advice to that Hillary back then, what would that piece of advice be?
Get pace out of your mind. Don't get hung up on it. If your training run is slow, if your race is slow, if your time trial is slow, your first marathon is about finishing, and taking the time piece out of it completely, I think is something like I wish that it wasn't even on my radar, like what my pace was for different races and stuff. I joined my local run club, San Antonio Roadrunners, at the time, and there's pace groups for each by minute per mile. And so I was so like, I had this in my mind, like, okay, I have to run with the 11-minute group. And, I had a baby at the time. Like, I was, she was, a year and a half or something, so I wasn't completely back to great shape after having her. I had never run a marathon and all this, but I just had this idea in my mind that the absolute slowest that I should be running is this 11-minute group. And I would go on these runs. I can't have a conversation with people at the time, at that pace. And I wish that at the time I didn't even think about that portion. And I ended up, it took about 2 months, and then I was introduced to the 12-minute pace, the Orange Team, which is like my favorite people in the world now. Like, awesome people. I don't run with them enough, and that's who introduced me to interval running, and being able to just be like, okay, well, this is a comfortable pace. I can actually talk to people while I'm running. I'm enjoying this. I'm not fighting for my life. And who the hell cares if I'm running 12.5-minute miles? Like, I'm getting myself in shape to finish this race. And I wish I could have gotten that through my own head sooner. It's something that I probably would have told anyone who wasn't myself, but it still took more to overcome it, like, because it was me. Get rid of the ego and all of that, and any idea of what is a good or bad pace. And just go by what my body needs at any given time. If it's a long run, you should be able to keep a conversation, especially if it's your first marathon. Like, you absolutely should be able to keep a conversation during those training runs and stuff. And you can't fake that. Like, if you're running too fast, you can't fake it because you cannot breathe.
Yes.
And And for so long, I was like, I won't run slower than an 11-minute mile. And then I just did. And my mileage doubled for the year. I finished my first marathon. I signed up for my second and third marathons. And it just made a huge difference. And even now, like, the weather's nice now. So I typically will run a little bit faster than that, even for my easy ones. But I did a trail run this weekend at like an 11.5-minute pace. And
That's faster than me.
and yeah, and I still posted it, and it's like, I completed it, and there's no embarrassment or shame or anything that comes with a slower pace.
Absolutely.
Now that is what I would tell myself, and I would be like, no, I promise, because I'm you, so I know how you're thinking. Like, actually listen to me.
Yes, ego is the enemy, and especially during our races, because we want to do the very best that we can, and we're trying to beat, as you pointed out, we're trying to beat ourselves. And you don't run with a watch, right?
So I actually got a watch for Christmas.
Okay.
My husband got it for me. I've worn it for one run. It didn't really make a difference on anything, because like my interval timer and like Strava and everything's still on my phone. But like when I got home, I saw my heart rate and stuff. It was kind of cool to see that. But like, I really don't like on a training run being able to see at any given time how fast I'm running. Like, if it's supposed to be an easy pace, I like that to be whatever that is on that given day, instead of be like, oh God, like I'm running way too slow, anything like that. So I did recently get a watch. I'm still learning it, and I did not ask for it, but my husband was like, you don't have a watch, and this is great. And so I'm coming around to it. But I'm trying not to let it change my mindset or the way that I do anything.
Yes. And I think that's one of the issues with running with a watch is, and I'm guilty of this too, of just constantly checking my pace. For me, it's my heart rate. I constantly just check my heart rate to make sure that, as you pointed out, if you run in the zone 2 run, you're able to maintain that pace and breathe easily and speak and not be able to feel like you're dying when you're all done. So there are a lot of positives, but there are also many negatives because of the amount of information that's available to you. Now, we talked about advice that you would give yourself when you were first starting out. Now, on the flip end, we have somebody who's just starting to get into the running journey, or they're thinking about getting started with running. They want to dabble in it and see what they can do because they see your profile. Now, what is one piece of advice separate to what you gave for yourself that you would give to that one person?
To enjoy it and make it fun. I think a lot of people go in, they're like, oh, I've always hated running. It's this horrible thing. You can't, it's a process to change that. Like, there's no like secret weapon to do that. So don't do too much too fast, start with running a mile, build up to a 5K. There's nothing wrong with that. And I mean, there is no rule that says you have to run a marathon or a half marathon or a race at all. If it doesn't sound appealing and it just feels like, oh, well, I want to start running. I don't have any desire to run a marathon, but it's kind of what people do. There are no rules. Just like something about me, and I think you said the same thing, like I am not a morning person. I only run in the mornings on weekends. I cannot make it through a work day if I get up and work out. Like I will be asleep. So I work out in the evenings, and it's, it sucks in the summer, but but overall theme is like there aren't these hard and fast rules that runners are early risers or runners are marathoners or runners all wear watches or like anything. Like if there's something that doesn't like vibe with you, it's not something that you want to do, like you don't have to do it. Like you don't have to you don't have to wear, you don't have to own carbon plated shoes. You don't have to do any of that at all. You don't even have to run on the road. If you want to just run on the sidewalk in your own neighborhood and you never want to go explore your city, like you don't have to. Like if you don't even ever want to run outside, like there's some people who only run on the treadmill, and that's still running too. Like there are no rules, so don't limit yourself and don't make up things in your mind because you think that's how runners operate or they should operate or they have to.
Very true. Yeah, marathon running has exploded, and I feel like so many people now, I've seen it on social media, they're like, "Well, I never run before, so I'm gonna sign up for a marathon and start training," and it's I sometimes I feel like they jump in way too fast. And that's,
'Cause
I mean, some people do that well, but I
yeah,
mean, as you pointed out, start small.
because the goal, I mean, my goal is and has always been for this to be a lifelong thing.
Mhm.
And you know, if you go and you go from 0 to 100, you burn yourself out, you're not enjoying it. Like, you know, are you still going to be doing this in 10 years? Like, or is this going to be something like, oh, yeah, I ran for a while when I was younger? And for me, I would rather have the longevity than, you know, hit a bunch of PRs and then hate running. And so just walking that fine line, like, you know, I have no problem with pushing myself and working hard and all of that stuff, but I really don't have to be out here doing anything. And if I ever feel like you know, it's overall not something I enjoy, you know, then I'm doing something wrong. And that's the one thing that I want to keep long term is the joy of all of it.
Yeah, the amount of people in my family that have told me you're destroying your knees and eventually you're going to need knee replacements and you're not going to be able to walk when you get older. I feel like those are the voices we shouldn't listen to, because if you're doing running properly, then you can do it for the rest of your life. I've seen people run. I mean, if people qualify for Boston in their 60s, in their 70s, like
Yeah.
you can
In the
do it.
80s. Yeah.
Exactly. You can do it. I mean, I think the world record for the oldest person is 99 who completed the marathon. So, I mean, like, if they can do it because they've continuously done the right things, we can do it too.
The one that makes me the saddest is not the people who have no idea what they're talking about, but the people who are like, "Oh, I used to be a runner when I was younger, but there's no way I could ever do that again." Like, that's what makes me the saddest. Is like, you know how awesome running is. But then you've just put up this roadblock to yourself because you did get out of shape, and now it's like, "Oh, it's too late for me." And it really isn't. I mean, like, there's a guy in my run club who his name's Tom. He's like in his mid 80s. He just ran the San Antonio half marathon, the same one that I ran in December, and finished in less than 13-minute miles. And I mean, this guy, I don't know how old he is, maybe like 83, 84. And he didn't start running until he was 65. And yeah, so he'll talk about it sometimes, and he's like, "Oh yeah, back when I was younger and I was faster," and like he's talking about his 60s. And it's like, you know, like, if this guy got started at 65 and he's doing it 20 years later in his 80s, like, you know, why not you? Like, I mean, it all comes back to just the limits that we put on ourselves.
Hey everybody, before we get into our last segment, I wanted to take a quick moment to thank today's sponsor, and that is For The Run. For The Run is a running apparel company that creates really high quality shirts, hoodies, and everyday gear designed for runners who care about the why they run just as much as they care about how fast or how far they can go. Their clothing is comfortable, durable, and made to be worn on runs, to races, and in everyday life, all while carrying messages that celebrate mental health, community, and personal growth through running. If you're someone who believes running is about more than performance and likes wearing gear that reflects that mindset, For The Run is absolutely worth checking out. You can find them at forthe.run. And if you use the code FTR-MikeRunsMarathons, you can save 10% off your next purchase. All right, let's get back to Hillary.
Our final segment here that I have is going to be a series of questions that I call the hot take. Now, these are very quick, rapid fire questions. You give me the answer just off the top of your head. Don't think too hard about them. Now, first question is trail or road?
I can't choose. Most of the time road, but I love the trail.
I knew this is going to be a difficult question for you. Favorite running shoe brand right now? I think I know this.
I would say Brooks.
Yeah. I mean, you're only part of the Brooks Collective, so I mean, I might know the answer to this too, but early alarm or late run?
Late run.
Yes, same with me. Do you prefer a long run solo or with others?
That's another I can't choose. Like I love running a long run by myself, but every time I do a long run with my friends in my run group, there's never a time and I'm like, oh, I really wish I had done that by myself.
Mm. Yeah, it also makes the time go by faster, and,
Yeah.
and you feel like it was, not as difficult as it was. What is your post marathon meal? Your favorite post marathon meal?
Probably a chicken fried steak from Texas. So
Yeah, that sounds delicious.
I I found out recently that not everybody in the country has eaten that,
I've
which
never had it
never had
before.
a chicken. Oh my god. Okay. Yes, it's
So
the best.
what is that?
It's like a crappy cut of meat, like breaded and fried, and then with white country gravy on it. It's
Okay,
amazing.
I'm
And
gonna have to check that out.
oh yeah.
Okay. Now, do you prefer music, podcast, or silence on your easy runs?
Either podcasts or I've been getting really into like murder books, like audiobooks.
So, like, while you're running by yourself outside, listening to murder books.
Yes.
Okay.
Like
Keeping you
in
on
the
your
woods
toes.
by myself and like it's a story about someone being killed in the woods. Yeah, pretty
Oh
much.
my goodness. What is one piece of running gear that you can't live without, and you can't say your shoes?
Say biker shorts with pockets.
Same. I love my half tights.
Yeah.
What is your dream race?
Ooh, Antarctica. The Antarctica marathon. That's the very last thing that I have on my bucket list. It's not on my radar anytime soon, but
Hmm.
that is a before I die Antarctica.
Oh, I would love to do that too. I think I had someone else say the same thing. That's crazy. That's like the ultimate
Yeah.
endurance
Yeah.
race ever. And when you talk about like bad water and stuff like that. No, you're running on a complete sheet of ice.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Now, if you could run, let's say you're running the Antarctica Marathon. If you could run that race with anyone, who would it be?
My dad. I would love for my dad to run another marathon and to do one with me. I'm hoping when he retires that he'll have time and we can do one together.
I love
I don't know
that.
if he would do Antarctica. My dad hates the cold, but
Same.
but I'd make him do it.
I love that. I love that. Now, these last two questions are things that I'm collecting from my interviewees so that I can give this out to the people that listen to this podcast. The first is if you could pick, I call this a motivation library. If you can pick one quote, a mantra, or a line that gets you through those tough miles, like your first marathon, besides like yelling at yourself, what kind of thing that you probably said to yourself just kept you going and pushed you forward?
Keep moving forward. Like it's simple, but just as long as you continue taking steps forward, you will eventually reach the finish line. And that's what has gotten me through a lot of races. And like when there's the idea that you might not finish at all, it's like, okay, can you take another step? Can you take another step after that? And just one foot in front of the other.
Yes, that has gotten me through many a race, especially when I don't want to be there anymore. If it, and that's a wonderful thing to say because starting out at mile one when you have 25 other miles to go can feel so daunting. But as long as you remind yourself, as you pointed out, that you just take that step one at a time, those 40,000 steps, you'll get there. You'll get there to the finish line. And it doesn't matter as long as you run your own race at your own pace. Now, I want you to picture yourself, you're at the Toronto Marathon, you're at like a 3:45. You're at 26 miles, you got 0.2 miles to go. You see the finish line. You're about to hit your goal. What song is blasting through your headphones?
It most likely, so my favorite running song, this isn't even motivational, but my favorite running song is Centerfold by Jay Giles Band.
Okay.
Just there's nothing motivational about that song, but it's so upbeat and catchy. It's on all my running playlists, and it's what if we ever do like collaborative running playlists before Brooks Hype Fest last year, we did one of those, and that's what I added. Anything like that. That is, and it is impossible to slow down while listening to that song.
I have to listen. I don't think I've ever heard that song. I'm gonna have to listen to it.
I mean, it's like about the guy had a crush on a girl in school, didn't see her for a while, and then she was in the centerfold of the porn magazine he was reading. So it's like it has nothing to do with like you can do this. This is great. Here's your aspirations, but like it's so catchy and upbeat, and I love 80s music. So it's a good one.
Yeah, I'm going to have to give it a listen after this. Awesome. Well, those are all the questions that I had for you today. I really, Hillary, appreciate you taking time to sit down with me. Like I said, I've admired your account for a very long time. Being able to sit down with you, get to know you, and hear your story has been really inspiring to me. And I am really grateful for everything that you shared today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Again, I want to thank Hillary so much for sharing her story and honesty today. I appreciate how openly she was about talking about the realities of running, her story, starting from a very young age, all the way to where she is now, starting her first marathon at age 30, finishing with COVID, and talking about many of the parts that don't get highlighted a lot when it comes to marathon running. Her willingness to show the process in which she gets to the goals that she wants to hit is something that I think a lot of runners need to hear. If you're listening and you don't follow Hillary already, you can follow her at running up that Hillary with underscores in between each of those words to go check out her page. She also has a website which goes over her history and also her coaching. It's a great reminder that growth doesn't have to be fast or linear to be meaningful. But I want to thank all of you for tuning into this episode of At Your Own Pace. Just a reminder, whether you're walking, jogging, or racing, or just dreaming about getting started, I want you to remember that you belong here at every pace. Until next time, keep running your story 1 mile at a time. Keep running your race at your own pace, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.